Hi there, I'm Michaela.
And I'm Margie.
And on this episode of GRPTV, we're going to be teaching you how to glide wax your skis. So this is actually a really important part of skiing because it keeps your bases from drying out and oxidizing. And we'd recommend that you glide wax your skis after every few skis or so. Of course, this is really dependent on how far you've been out skiing and a couple of other factors. So we put together a short little checklist to help answer that question of whether you should glide wax your skis.
Have you skied on your skis for more than 5 hours since the last time you waxed?
Yeah. If yes, then you should wax your skis.
Are the bases starting to turn a little bit white?
If yes, then you've waited too long and you should definitely wax your skis.
Are you racing tomorrow?
Again, if yes, wax your skis. After all, you're going to want some speedy skis out on that race course. And before we get into it, we want to bring up one more important time to wax your skis, and that's at the end of every season before you put your skis away. For the summer, you want to iron on a coat of glide wax just to keep those bases from drying out in the summer. So we know that if you've never heard anything about glide waxing your skis before, this can sound really daunting, but we promise you, once you learn the basics, it actually goes relatively quickly and it goes a really long ways towards maintaining the condition of your skis.
To begin your glide waxing, you'll need 6 things: a wax bench, a groove scraper, your wax, a wax iron, a scraper, and a brush. Your local ski shop can help point you in the right direction to get these items.
Once you have all your waxing supplies together, the first step is actually choosing which glide wax to use. This depends on what the temperature is going to be the next time you're planning on skiing, and it's usually listed on wax boxes. So for this box of CH6, it's a blue wax, and the temperature range on there is 14 to 23 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's pretty versatile. Hits a pretty broad range. We'd recommend, if you're not looking to break the bank, just choosing a few different glide waxes that cover a wide range. That way you'll usually have the temperature you need covered when you're ready to glide wax. Again, it's not super important that you exactly hit the temperature if you're just going out for an everyday ski. It becomes a lot more important when you're planning on racing because it can really slow down your skis if the wax you're using doesn't match up with the temperature that it's going to be.
To begin the waxing process, you'll start by attaching your ski to the bench and plugging in your iron. Then you're going to make sure that your iron is set to the correct temperature for your wax, which is usually on the wax box. So on this wax box, it says it's 293 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to use this little dial and set my iron to 293 and wait for it to heat up. Next, you're going to take your copper brush and brush along your ski to get out any dirt particles that could be remaining from a previous ski. I'm using my copper brush in the same direction so I don't damage the ski or the bristles. And so I'm always brushing with the brush in the same direction, always tip to tail on your ski to go along with the way that you would be gliding. So here I have arrows written on my brush so I remember which way it goes. So I'll start from the top and do one slightly firm pass, but not too aggressive, along the ski. I'll do it again, and I'll do this maybe 4 to 5 times to remove any excess dirt from the ski.
Now that the iron is all heated up, we can start applying the glide wax. So you apply glide wax a little bit differently for classic versus skate skis, and the only difference really is that classic skis have something called the kick zone, which is the middle of the ski, and that's where you apply kick wax so that you can kick up hills on the snow. And skate skis don't have this zone, so you actually apply glide wax to the entire space of the ski. So since we're doing classic skis, we want to wax from the tip of the ski to the top of the kick zone, and then from the bottom of the kick zone all the way to the tail of the ski. And there's 2 main methods for applying glide wax: the drip-on method and the craning method. So I'll show you both. And on the top part, I'll do the drip on method. So what you do is you begin melting your block of wax on the iron, and then you want to angle it kind of diagonally over the ski so that wax starts dripping out. And then you go down on one side of the groove and back on the other. And then by the end of that, you'll have little drops or a line of wax along the base of your ski. And it's also important to note that you don't need to wax this full tip of your ski. Just not really necessary since that section's not actually hitting the snow. And then the other method is the crayon-on method. And for this one, what you do is, again, you melt the wax, but instead of dripping it on, you rub it along the base of your ski enough times so that there's a light coat of wax crayoned onto the base of your ski. And this usually works a lot better with warmer waxes because they crayon on a little better. Colder waxes, you're not going to be able to do this method as easily. Now, once that wax is applied to the ski, we actually have to iron it in so that the ski is fully saturated. So you apply light pressure with the iron and make sure always keep it moving so that it doesn't damage the base of your ski. So you're going to want to do a few passes with this until the wax is fully saturated along the base of the ski and you can't see any clear spaces with the base. All right, so that side's saturated, and then we can move on to this back half. And there we have it. So you're gonna wanna repeat this whole process. Again, the pre-brushing that Margie showed you and the glide waxing with the second ski, and then you set them aside for about 15 minutes or so, or until that glide wax is cool to the touch before we can scrape it back off and get skiing.
Once your ski is cool to the touch, about 15 minutes after you have ironed in the wax, you can begin scraping. You'll take your groove scraper or groove pen first and run it along the inside on the groove of your ski where the wax is. We do this process first to avoid if you accidentally scrape the edge of your ski, there's still a layer of wax to protect it. You want to apply firm but not too aggressive pressure and just go along the groove a couple of times. Always tip to tail. Once you've scraped your groove, you can take either the groove pen or a wax scraper and run it along the edge of your ski where the wax is to get the edges. Again, tip to tail. Next, you'll take your scraper and hold it at about a 45-degree angle from the ski, and using similar firm pressure but not too aggressive, start scraping where the wax is. You'll want to make sure that you're pressing hard enough so wax is coming off in little shreds, but not too aggressively where you're going to accidentally slip and scratch your ski. This will take about 4 or 5 passes or more. Try to avoid doing short passes, and the longer ones will help. Do this along the first half of your classic ski and the back half of your classic ski. And repeat with your second ski.
Now that Margie showed us how to scrape our ski, we want to make sure to get the remaining wax off with our brushes, because scraping does a pretty good job of removing most of the wax, but there's always a little bit left that we want to get out to make sure our skis are waxed as well as they can be. So we want to start with the same brush we used before we were waxing. This is usually a copper or a steel brush. So again, we want to make sure we're always waxing in the same direction. And we just need to wax the glide zones of the classic ski. So you want to apply light, not too aggressive pressure. and begin brushing that ski until there isn't much more wax particles coming up with the brush. So there's no magic number of passes for this. It's just until you think that most of the wax is gone from the base of the ski. So usually that's around 8 or 10 passes, but again, it can really depend on how well the skis are scraped and how easy it is to get that wax out of there. So we can do the bottom half of the ski now. And once we're done with this copper brush, we'd really recommend that you also brush with a nylon brush. This is a stiff nylon brush. It's a little different than the copper brush. You can actually, if you want, brush it in both directions along the ski and apply pretty medium to heavy pressure just to get any last wax particles out of the ski. And once you're done brushing those skis and it seems like your bases are looking nice and fresh, then you can move on to that second ski, scrape it, brush it, and you're all set and ready to go hit those trails.
A few final reminders before we wrap up this video. Always remember to unplug your waxing iron when you're done and to clean up the area because wax shavings can get a little slippery, and to wear a PPE mask if you're waxing in a poorly ventilated area. This concludes the glide waxing of your classic skis. Now you're ready to go cruise the trails. Stay tuned for another episode on how to kick wax your skis. On this episode of GRPTV, we're going to break down how to glide wax.
My phone just died.